Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Andrea Holsworth with Project Lead the Way. And today we'll be having an exciting visit. We're going to be traveling all the way to California for our Project Lead the Way High School Showcase at Glenn Wilson High School with Hacienda La Puente Unified in Hacienda Heights, California. We do have an action-packed hour for you today, so we're going to get started right away. After I do a quick intro, I'm going to provide an overview of Project Lead the Way and our high school programs that we offer. Then we're going to visit our host high school in California, where we'll see a biomedical sciences classroom in action. We'll hear from students, teachers, and administrators. After that, we'll hear perspectives from additional educators from across the country and answer questions that you may have as well. Just a few housekeeping items as we get started. Please feel free to ask questions today. You can do that by entering any of your questions into the chat, and we'll save those and do them later during our Q&A session. We also want to share that you can update your screen preferences to control the view that you see in Zoom. A Project Lead the Way team member will be sharing helpful instructions with you on how to do that in the chat. As I mentioned, we have plenty of time for questions at the end, so feel free to add those in there. We do ask that if you're not asking a question, please mute your mic so that we don't have too many background distractions as we're traveling over to see our school. Project Lead the Way provides transformative learning experiences for pre-K through 12 students and teachers across the country. We create an engaging, hands-on classroom environment and empower students to develop in-demand knowledge and skills that they need to thrive. We also provide teachers with training, resources, and support they need to engage students in real-world learning. Our pathways in computer science, engineering, and biomedical science engage students in hands-on activities, projects, and problems, and empower them to solve real-world challenges. Project Lead the Way has trained over 80,000 teachers, which keeps growing by the month as we facilitate professional development year-round. We are in over 12,200 schools across the country. The vertical alignment of our curriculum begins in the earliest grades, starting in pre-K, and is offered all the way through high school, so a pre-K through 12 continuum. At the high school level, we offer 18 separate courses within 3 different pathways of biomedical science, computer science, and engineering. Each high school course is a year in length, providing rigorous and relevant career learning experiences for your students. The experience that the Project Lead the Way curriculum development team has gained, both in the field and in previous teaching experience, inspires them to continually assess and evolve the curriculum to meet the needs of both students and teachers across the country. Each high school program provides students with a variety of benefits that prepare them for the evolving world. Students acquire skills that industries demand most, while connecting them to those post-high school opportunities, including college credit and even scholarships. The curriculum is focused on real-world experiences that tie directly to the day-to-day experiences of actual industry professionals. It introduces students to a variety of careers by providing them diverse examples of professionals engaged in solving challenges. Within every course, students will experience an activity, project, and problem-based approach and utilize industry-grade software and tools that they could be using when they leave high school in those real workplace situations. We do maintain an agile and continuous focus on providing relevant experiences. Examples of that include, we recently added a game design and development module utilizing the popular Roblox platform. And early in the pandemic, we developed the COVID-19 module, which helps students really understand the disease while they learn broadly applicable concepts. Our curriculum and our schools are supported by world-class partnerships with organizations like John Deere, Chevron, Lockheed Martin, Bayer, Boeing, Ardagh Group, and so many more. And very importantly, research shows that Project Lead the Way students outperform their peers in schools, are better prepared for post-secondary studies, and are more likely to consider careers in STEM fields compared to their non-PLTW peers. Now that you've heard me talking and I've provided you a high-level overview of Project Lead the Way in the curriculum, now let's travel to California and actually see it in action and hear from those that matter most: Project Lead the Way students, teachers, and administrators. I'm now going to introduce you to my Project Lead the Way teammate, 𝐲𝐿𝐵, who will be our tour guide at our high school today. 𝐲𝐿𝐵, it's so good to see you, and I'm going to pass that mic to you.
Hi, Andrea, and welcome to Glenn A. Wilson High School in Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. Glenn A. Wilson has 3 different Project Lead the Way pathways. They've had biomedical science and engineering for 8 years and have just started their computer science pathway this year. Today, we're going to be introduced to the school by the school principal. Oh, turn the camera around. Dr. Danielle Kenfield. Thank you so much for having us, Dr. Kenfield.
Thank you so much. We are honored to have you here. Again, my name is Dr. Danielle Kenfield. I'm privileged to serve as the principal of Glenn A. Wilson High School here in Hacienda Heights, California. We are part of the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District, led by Superintendent Dr. Alfonso Jimenez. 8 years ago, we began our partnership with Project Lead the Way with a single entry-level course in engineering and a single entry-level course in biomedical science. Today, 8 years later, we have 3 4-year STEM pathways in biomedical science, computer science, and engineering. Our growth and our success can be attributed to Project Lead the Way's industry-aligned curriculum, our teachers who are highly trained, highly skilled, and committed, and our district, which very much values and promotes STEM learning. We're happy to welcome you into the classroom today to see our 4th-year biomedical class, Biomedical Innovations. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kenfield. We're now going to move over to the school teacher, classroom teacher, Mr. Jung Han.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jung-Soo Han. I'm a teacher here at Wilson High School. I teach the 1st year of biomedical science, the 3rd year, and 4th year. Right now, we're in the 4th year class, Biomedical Innovations. And today, we're going to be working on water quality testing. So the students have 2 water sources, local water sources, as well as the Williams water source. So they'll be running different water quality tests to test for like different contaminants.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to go and see what the students are up to now. Very intricate right here. Can we hear a bit about what you're up to?
Right now we're testing 2 different water samples. As you can see, every single table is testing them, but every single table has 2 different ones. So these 2 are from, one sample is from Ellie's precipitation on the top of her car, and the other is pool water, and we're testing to see if there are any impurities or chemicals that are contaminated in the water.
Have you found anything yet?
Not yet. We're currently going through this process, and we're going to add these different chemicals to test whether or not there's ammonia in the solution.
Ammonia?
Yes.
What would that mean if there was ammonia in the water? Would that be a positive or a negative?
Ooh, on top of my car, it's definitely negative. But yeah, if we see it, after the second solution, when you put it in, if we see it and it's cloudy, that definitely means it's positive, and that would definitely be a negative outcome.
Definitely a negative outcome. How does this relate to what you've been learning over the past week, maybe?
Well, over the past week, we learned about the different side effects, both short-term and long-term, that ammonia and different things in water, as they're contaminated into water, can have on the body, and the different side effects that are negative and how they can be super detrimental and fatal to people's lives.
Fantastic. Seems like life-saving work. Thank you. So it looks as though you're at a different stage of the process here.
Yeah, we're testing pH levels. So a normal pH level is 7, which means that the color would be like a greenish yellow. Right now, our reverse osmosis water is like at a 6 for pH level. So it's not acidic, which is like an average pH. As for these though, these are on the more acidic side, I believe, yeah.
More acidic side. Would that be bad if our drinking water was more acidic on a daily level?
Acidic water.
Don't want acidic water. What would be some negative effects of having acidic water?
It can like damage your esophagus, and like acidic water is also like not super good for like hydration. Yeah, you'll like be more thirsty. You won't like quench that thirst. So
fantastic. Thank you.
Hey, Jaco, we do have
Yes.
a question for the students that are talking here on the research that they're doing. Can you also
Yes, please.
how the research that they're doing is connecting to careers after high school?
Absolutely. Let's find out here. So what research are we doing here, and how's it going to affect the outside world and what you're doing outside of high school?
So here we're basically testing for water purity. So I think it could apply outside of high school because, well, everyone drinks water. And based on whether this water is clean, we know that we can drink sparkling water and it'll be okay and we won't die. This rainwater, on the other hand, we might not be able to drink that because it's kind of yellow. But that's what we're testing for, just in case. Yeah.
How might this research continue outside of a high school classroom in maybe a science lab?
Well, say I was interested in, I guess, water purity treating, or maybe like a chemical engineer major. That's where I would go to. So, yeah, I think that chemical engineer major would be something that I would go.
Chemical engineering
You can
major.
also find out like, oh, what chemicals work with what helps clean the water in some way. And yeah, so
Fantastic. So what are we looking for here specifically?
we're looking for any signs of chlorine in the water. We're putting our 3 water samples in each row of this plate, and we're adding this to see if the color changes.
What is this?
It's chlorine.
Yeah, it's just a chlorine solution.
And then based on if it changes color, we'll know if that's chlorine or just
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then you would make those recommendations to whoever was drinking this water, right? Okay, fantastic. Have you seen any signs yet?
Not yet. We have 3 minutes.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
3 minutes left.
Hey, Jaco.
Looking good. Yes.
We're enjoying hearing from the students, but it's just a little bit difficult to hear them. Can you just put that microphone a little bit closer to the students for that next question?
Absolutely. A bit more about what this project is, what we're looking at.
Yeah, so this year, one of the major projects that we had to do was a medical innovation. So we focused specifically on emergency medicine, and we did research as to what prominent issues were going on in emergency medicine at our hospital. So this is a layout of all the rooms and technology from restrooms to medical procedural rooms to much more. And we have a layout of the diagram here as well. And another important aspect of our project was that we had to come up with the innovation. So we introduced to you 𝐸MA, which stands for Emergency Medical Robotic Medical Assistant.
Yeah, so this is actually based off of one of my favorite movies, which is the Disney movie Big Hero 6. It's not exactly a Baymax, but it's based off of the idea. So one of the major issues in the ER is that there aren't enough nurses, there aren't enough like medical response people and teams to be able to take care of the overwhelming patients that they have. And so our idea for the innovation was to have this 𝐸MA robot and place this in every single one of these hospital rooms that you see in this layout. And the idea is that it could be not really taking over the job of a nurse, but making their roles a little bit easier and making their roles faster so that they can get to more patients. And how this works is that 𝐸MA is going to have a temperature thermometer scanner. It's based off of the idea that they have in a lot of international airports. I've seen how temperature scanners, they come from, I think, infrared rays and they can measure temperature. But in addition to that, we also thought that it would be helpful for our robot to be able to scan triage levels, which is basically how nurses and professionals decide how they're going to treat their patients, in what order and in what priority. And so based off that, we have 𝐸MA here. The idea is that in every single patient room, it'll be able to speed up the process of the emergency medical responses.
Fantastic. Would love to see it in action. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jaco. That was a great conversation with those students and their design of the emergency room. I think it'd be best if we moved on to our student panel in the other room so we can hear those
Absolutely.
students just a little bit better.
Thank you so much. We're now going to be moving to the student panel. And Mr. Han is going to lead the way for us.
So,
Mr. Han, can you tell us a bit more about how students pick their biomedical innovations projects?
yeah, so it's based on interest. So, at the beginning of the year, we talk about the senior project, the capstone project, and students have different interests. Some students want to go into more like doctor, nurse. Some want to go into sports medicine. So they're able to choose a variety of different senior projects where they could do an internship, they could do job shadowing, do like a TSA on that. They could do a biomedical innovation where maybe they're looking at 3D printing stents. So we give them a lot of different, a lot of leeway and flexibility so that they can actually pursue their interests.
Fantastic. Can you think of any particular projects from past years that really stuck out?
I would say the stent project. So there was a student whose father, had a heart condition, so he had to have a stent in. So he was looking. He talked to different researchers and people in the medical field about stents that are able to not cause any type of allergic reaction, and also be made out of materials that would biodegrade over time, but still have the strength to ensure that the collapse in and allow proper blood flow.
Fantastic. Amazing project. Okay, we're about to begin our student panel here in a moment. Any final parting thoughts? I know we've got a great group of students here.
Not really, but I think our students here do an excellent job at the biomedical sciences, PLTW biomedical sciences at Wilson High School.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Han. Hi, everyone. Maybe we can start off by asking, what do you most like about Project Lead the Way?
I think what I most like about Project Lead the Way is the fact that it allows you to explore like the career. So coming into high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So joining biomed and joining the engineering pathway allowed me to figure out what my interest is and like really helped me in like defining what I want to do in the future.
Fantastic.
My favorite thing about Project Lead the Way is how each thing builds upon each year. And so how the first year we learn about the principles, and then the last year you learn about the innovations. And this is something that you can apply in a broader perspective in the real world and outside the classroom.
Thank you. Can you think of any particular Project Lead the Way units, modules, or activities that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, for this question, I'd honestly want to go back to my freshman year where we started with a very challenging project about 𝐲𝐶's case and how we would find out with so many different hands-on activities such as blood and DNA, blood splatter, acting to see which victims were at the scene or not. And it just has built on throughout the 4 years with so many hands-on activities.
Fantastic.
My favorite activity is actually the one that we just did. We currently just dissected a fetal pig, and that was really interesting, and it really helped me kind of explore my love for like the human body and other animals.
Love that. Can anyone think of a time in a project where maybe you failed or it didn't go as you thought it might, and how you adapted to that?
Yeah, just last year we were working on a prosthetic arm, and I worked with my partner on it, and we've honestly had to redo the arm at least 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Having to take it apart, strings, reglue stuff on. And yeah, it takes a lot of hours, but at the end, after you succeed, and it makes you feel better that you've done a really nice project.
Fantastic. Any other moments like that?
So last year there was this lab that was really difficult. It's called the 𝐲𝐮'𝐿ISA lab. What you need to do is be really diligent and also have really great time management skills. And my group did not have that. And that's something we learned about ourselves. And that's something that we hope to improve later on. And that was a challenge we faced that was unexpected, but also something that we know that we need to improve on in the future.
Speaking to that kind of issue, what do you think about working with groups? What kind of opportunities and challenges does it maybe offer?
I think working in groups is one of those things that you have to learn to do, but it's a really good experience for everyone that does it because you get to meet new people and connect with people that you probably won't interact with, like even if outside of the classroom setting. So I feel like working in groups helps develop like those life skills you need, like those soft skills, like building teamwork, listening to each other, and it's really like effective for like when you want to pursue a career. When you work with other employees, it's important to communicate with them effectively. So group work is a big plus here in PLTW.
Any challenges with group work?
I was in Ellie's group from last year and how she talked about the ELIZA lab. And I think one thing that's really challenging about group work is when some people, it's really hard to balance time management and also like diligence, as Ellie said. And as we know, other people think differently and everyone thinks in different ways. So being able to collaborate and input your ideas into these group activities is really important.
So we heard a moment ago about how group work is important in industry work. Is anyone here planning on working in a math or science field or studying that in college? Does anyone want to speak to what they're planning to study and maybe how Project Lead the Way has supported that?
I mean, I started first year in biomed and I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. And I was just thinking you go into biomedical fields and then from after college, then you go into this one part. But I found out that there's so many pathways in the medical field. And then the labs that we do and the different units, it just opens your mind of how much different careers you can do in the biomed field. Me personally, I want to be a doctor. I still don't know which pathway I want to take, but yeah, I'm absolutely interested in taking a pathway in science, which is mostly being a pediatrician, a children's doctor.
Fantastic. Anyone else want to speak to that?
I think, like for me, I want to major in something like biomedical engineering, kind of cutting the bridge between bio and engineering. I think that partly the way has really helped me develop that because we learn about all the things that you need to pursue that kind of career. So like being in this program really helped me like figure out what I need to learn before I get into college and before I get into actually being like dedicated to that career. I feel like it's really beneficial for me. It's like because I finally like realized that this is what I want to do and like there's no like doubt about what I want to do in the future.
Fantastic. Can anyone think of any skills they've learned in a Project Lead the Way classroom that has translated well to outside classes or outside projects?
Yeah, I think definitely creative problem solving. Not only did I compete in a event with creative problem solving, but I think over the last couple of years, I've learned a lot of ways on how to navigate over these problems and also hopefully in the future use these skills into my career to apply both science and these other skills that are not just science related or lab related, also to real world problems.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
One skill that I learned a lot from this pathway is critical thinking because we run into a lot of problems when we do like these labs and dissections. And for example, if you're dissecting something, you accidentally cut into something that you weren't supposed to, you have to like think critically and try to like solve that problem. And also like when we do things like stopping blood from pouring, you have to think of ways to make sure that this patient like survives and it really helps you apply it to the real world.
Does anyone have a year-long project that they want to speak to in biomedical innovations?
So like the thing I'm thinking about is like microgravity in space. So developing a system that allows astronauts to kind of, when they return from space, to not feel like that, like it affected them that much, like their bone mass and then their muscles. So like a design that I was thinking of is called galvanic vestibular stimulation, which like basically stimulates the balance system in your ears. So I'm like working on that to figure out like how it can be implemented in astronauts spacesuits. So it's like easily accessible because like now we're moving on to like the space age, I guess, and going on to the explore other planets. So I feel like this mention is very important, especially if we're going to send more people into space. And yeah.
And have you been supported to go into that type of project?
Definitely. I feel like things I learned in PLTW really helped me like figure out what to plan for this project. So example would be like the design process, figuring out different iterations, prototyping, brainstorming, finding the problem. Like those steps really helped me figure out how I can approach this and develop the best solution possible for this issue.
Fantastic. Any other projects?
Oh, sorry.
Don't have to. Is anyone else in a different Project Lead the Way pathway as well? Or have you taken any other Project Lead the Way courses? Also okay.
𝐲𝐿𝐿, thank you for those questions to our students. We do have a couple of questions for 𝐥𝐿𝐿 and Dr. Canfield, if there's a quick minute for
Absolutely.
with them.
We're going to move on to questions with Mr. Han and Dr. Canfield. Thank you so much to our student panelists. You're fantastic, and good luck with your next endeavors. I look forward to seeing your projects. So we're just going to give a moment. Thank you so much for the time. Can you speak a bit more to Project Lead the Way at the school?
Yes, I mean, first off, every time you hear these kids, or I hear these kids talk, they really blow me away. So that is the Project Lead the Classroom. No matter if you're in engineering or you're in computer science or you're in biomedical science, the creative problem solving, the innovative design, and just the persistent questioning. That's very typical of a Project Lead the Way student, and that is fostered through the Project Lead the Way curriculum.
Oh, okay. So I would say, PLTW, the biomedical science, not only do I really enjoy teaching the class, but the students really love being involved in the activities. It shows them real world problems that they're able to actually solve and go through using the design process. And it makes it really relevant for them. A lot of the science classes, the traditional science classes, you just learn textbook work, but for PLTW classes, it's all relevant. So they engage more into the curriculum. And as a result, you can see they're having fun in the lab. There's no stress. People are openly asking questions. They're talking to each other, collaborating. So I think just that whole pathway of classes, having engineering, computer science, biomedical science, that's really getting our students more prepared and teaching them the soft skills that they need in order to be successful in college or the workforce. So this is something that we really seen grown since 8 years ago to now, and we've seen all our students grow from freshman year to senior year. So for us, this is something that's been our number one thing here at our school. It's just growing. Our students are interested in STEM, our community is interested in STEM, and this is what we're going with, and this is how we're getting our students from here to there to be ready for their futures.
That's fantastic. Can you think over those 8 years of any particular aha moments in a Project Lead the Way classroom or program? It could be any pathway as well.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of the aha moments come when the students I've had for maybe 3-4 years, had them in PBS, and then they're learning about the cardiovascular system, the 𝐤𝐚 Garcia case, and then they're learning about the human body systems, the different body systems, and then once they get to the forensic autopsy, the fetal pig dissection, they're able to use all that knowledge in order to support their learning during the investigation, because they're basically trying to find out, okay, so this fetal pig passed away some way, and we're gonna look at the heart and analyze the heart. Okay, so we gotta cut open the heart. Is there some kind of valve defect, or is there a opening between the septum walls? And they're able to use all the knowledge from the first year, the second year, and the third year into their fourth year in order to do this all-encompassing kind of use your knowledge, everything you know, in order to solve this real-world problem. And they're able to explore, the career of medical examiner. And I think just seeing all that, it's wow, freshman year, I see that you're this, and you're oh, I don't know what's going on, but this is pretty cool. I mean, you have to cut open hearts and stuff. And then by their senior year, they're talking like a professional. They're talking about different, parts of the heart, how the fetal circulation is. And you're just as a teacher, you see them from freshman to senior year, and wow, that's that growth there. That's the thing that makes us as teachers, educators, administrators, just really proud, and just we're wow, this is amazing.
You've seen 4 graduating classes already. How has that helped them so far in their next pursuits?
So we get a lot of students that come back, especially towards like Thanksgiving break, winter break. And a lot of them come back and just go like, hey, you know, Mr. Han, you know, I just want to say like this, like going through the biomed pathway, like I really enjoyed it. And it's really prepared me for like the labs in college. Like my lab partners, like they never experienced, you know, Project Lead the Way. So like when we're doing labs, like they're kind of clueless. Like they haven't done many labs in high school that were very hands-on. So like we're the ones like kind of like leading the lab activity and making sure like everything's like going correct. We're asking the right questions. We're able to like work together in order to record the data, making sure that things aren't contaminated. So yeah, we get a lot of students that just come back and say like, we just felt like a lot more prepared than everyone else. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Dr. Kenfield, you've spoken a lot about your philosophy of building the program here at Glen A. Wilson. Can you speak to that or how you've mapped out the professional development for your teachers?
Yes, yes, I will. One of the things in our instructional initiative that we seek is to empower our students to own their learning so that they're ready for college and career after they graduate. So we seek this through giving our students the authority, the capacity, and the responsibility to own their learning. When you walk into a Project Lead the Way class, you know, you see that. And I was going to mention exactly what you had mentioned. It's in the way the kids speak. They speak with such depth. You know, you can walk around if you're observing class and just ask the student, hey, what are you learning and why is that important? And you will be engaged with the student for a good 5 minutes because they will delve in deep, very deep, and having clear understanding about the purpose of what they're doing, what the outcome is supposed to be, if they're on the right track, like what the outcome is supposed to look like so that they can ask questions if it's not going the right way. So when we talk about giving our students ownership and empowering them to own their learning, that fits hand in hand into Project Lead the Way. So I see Project Lead the Way as the vehicle for our instructional initiatives here at Wilson High School, and they again fit hand in hand together.
Thank you so much. Mr. Han, you and I spoke earlier, and you mentioned one of the great resources from your professional development training was the community forums. Can you speak to maybe how you've utilized those a bit in implementing your program?
Oh yeah, so you know, when we go to the core training, like we meet like the master teachers, the teachers there, and you know, like the training is really great. Like we go through all the labs and stuff, but there are some things that you run into. For example, like we don't have a block schedule. We have a 55-minute class period, and try to run gel electrophoresis in that 55-minute period is pretty hard to do. So, you know, I'll go on the forums and just like kind of like ask like other teachers because that's what we were kind of like told about, like, hey, like try the forum, like you usually get like a response pretty quickly. So, you know, I tried the forum, and then like within like maybe like 5 minutes, there was a teacher from I think Michigan just like telling me like, oh, you should try running it at 150 volts if you only have like 20 minutes to do it, because at a higher voltage the DNA bands will separate, will travel a little bit faster, and you're able to finish in that 55-minute period. And I was like, wow, like I did not expect that. Like normally in forums, like you get anything, like it could be a couple of days later, it might not be very good information, but I found that the PLTW forums, like that community is just awesome. Like the support that I get, like anytime I had questions when I was like a first-year teacher doing gel electrophoresis, or second-year teacher, even now, like you just put anything on there, like ask a couple questions, and like they will give like everything. Like you get the support that like you just wouldn't believe.
Thank you so much. Andrea, do we have any questions from the chat?
Yeah, 𝐲𝐿𝐿, we do. I think this one may be suited for Dr. Kenfield. They mentioned a little bit ago that their community wanted STEM education. And we know that STEM fields are growing, right? There's lots of demand for that. Can they share why the school leaders within this district chose Project Lead the Way as the preferred STEM curriculum?
So Dr. Kenfield, there's a lot of growth right now in STEM, and a lot of districts are wondering exactly, what programs to go with, how to choose. Can you speak to how you ended up choosing to implement Project Lead the Way?
Oh, good question. When I arrived here at Wilson, they had been dabbling in a biotech class through ROP, Regional Occupation. And that program kind of went under. And so I have had experience with Project Lead the Way at my former district and thought it was wonderful. So for us, I think what I really appreciate about Project Lead the Way is the training. Because to go in and tell a teacher, hey, can you do this? Most science teachers would like to do that, but to get the hands-on experience, you need the curriculum, you need to be trained. And the training that Project Lead the Way provides is so comprehensive and deep. It's a lot of work, but the teachers come back with a lot of confidence, a lot of enthusiasm, and there's just so much support. In fact, one of the things that Jung and I are trying to do is to really work on promoting a STEM pathway here in Hacienda La Puente K-12. And so we've been working with our middle schools and elementary schools. And again, when you start to say, hey, let's start a biomed program or computer science or engineering program, you know, the first thing is, oh my gosh, how are our teachers going to handle that? That's so much work. So once, we exposed them to Project Lead the Way and got them going, their teachers are so excited. Their administrators are on board, and then we've created a wonderful partnership between right now our middle school and our high schools, and of course continuing to work with our elementary schools at the beginning stages. So the resources are just amazing. You will find nothing like Project Lead the Way resources.
I could add on to that. So I believe maybe it was like 9-10 years ago, before we started the PLTW, like biomedical science engineering. The district actually conducted a survey with like the students and the parents and just asked them like, hey, we want to start different career pathways. Like, what are you interested in? What are our families interested in? And the majority of them said biomedical science, engineering, computer science. So that's, I guess that's what the district saw, and that's how we started.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions, Andrea?
That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you to our gracious hosts for letting us travel to their classroom and talk with their students today, 𝐲𝐿𝐭.
Thank you so much to both of you so much. And go Wildcats.
Thank you.
We're passing it back over to you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thanks, 𝐲𝐿𝐭. I don't know about all of you, but listening to those students really inspired me. Just knowing the research that they're doing, sitting in their high school classrooms and seeing the rigor and the relevance for what they were learning and how they're utilizing it in other areas. Now we're going to be hearing from a couple of other educators from other schools and districts. And so with that, we're going to have a panel discussion. And I would like to introduce our two panelists. We have two panelists on the call with us today, Clifford 𝐲𝐿𝐿 and Diane 𝐥𝐥. Hey, thank you for joining us today, Diane and Cliff.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Likewise, and thank you.
Yeah, well, as we get started with our conversation about your Project Lead the Way programs, can you start off by just introducing yourself, where your role, where you're located, and also what Project Lead the Way looks like within your school and district? And Diane, we'll start with you.
Okay, I actually I was formerly a principal in Lorain City Schools. We had a Project Lead the Way engineering course that we ran. I did not dig in too deep with it there, but then I came to Polaris. I'm starting my 9th year at Polaris, and I was challenged with growing the Project Lead the Way program. When I first started here, there were like 3 engineering programs and 1 biomedical program. We were serving about 650 kids in our satellite programming, and we are now up to 3,500 students in Project Lead the Way. So we've grown tremendously. We are a big career technical center. So our main campus has like your traditional career tech programs, your welding, cosmetology, computer networking, but our satellite programs are all Project Lead the Way based. And so those students at our 6 districts in which we serve can access Project Lead the Way in their home high schools.
Great, thanks, Diane. Cliff?
Yes, so yeah, my name is Clifford 𝐲𝐿𝐿, and I began as a Project Lead the Way teacher in my teaching career. I went to college for electrical engineering and decided to become a math teacher. I taught math for a while, and then Project Lead the Way came to the school where I was teaching, and we were in New York State, one of the 13 schools in Project Lead the Way back then. So only 13 schools of Project Lead the Way. I went up to RIT for some training, Rochester Institute of Technology, and I was trained in all 5 of the engineering classes at that time: IED, DE, POE, SIMS, and EDD. So I taught all those courses at one point. I became a master teacher in digital electronics and loved it. It was a great experience. I did eventually move into administration, and my current district now is Vestal School District, and they did not have Project Lead the Way here. So it took all about 2 years, and we had Project Lead the Way at Vestal, and it's been flourishing ever since. So we have the Gateway program in our middle school, and then we also have the engineering program at our high school. And in conjunction with that, we just did a capital project here, renovated our Project Lead the Way classrooms, and we've added FIRST robotics. So we have a classroom, we're outfitted with over $400,000 worth of CNC milling machines and milling machines and the lathe machines. And so now we have a robust robotics program that's in conjunction with our Project Lead the Way program. So it's been really great. We have about 150 to 175 students in our classes for Project Lead the Way. And our high school is about 850 students wide. So it's a great program. We also offer IB, AP, fast forward courses. So it does compete a little bit with that, but it really is, it meshes well because we look at the high level learning with Project Lead the Way, and then the high level learning with the AP and IB courses. And it's fantastic. Great community support. What's big thing is that we live in a community where we have Lockheed Martin and BAE Systems defense contractors. So engineers in those areas want to come into our school. They want to volunteer. Because it's like, this is unbelievable. The students are learning at this high level in high school. So it's really fantastic. That's been my experience of supporting that. I was a high school principal at one point at Vestal before I moved into central office work. But it's fantastic.
That's great. Thank you both for providing that glimpse into your districts. And just kind of a caveat, what Cliff was mentioning, Project Lead the Way is celebrating our 25th year with offering and empowering students across the country. So we're excited to be celebrating that this year. With that, I would love to ask you a little bit more on how does Project Lead the Way compare to other curriculums that your students are experiencing? Diane, do you want to start us off with that one? Sorry, Diane, you're on mute.
Career Tech is traditionally known for being lab-based, hands-on, but Project Lead the Way, I think it just takes learning, investigating, collaboration, creativity to a whole nother level. It's really interesting to see when I walk into a classroom, all the different things that are going on and how engaged our students are. The one thing that we worked really hard for is to make Project Lead the Way on the same track as AP and honors courses. So again, we deal with 6 different high schools and 6 different districts. And we didn't think we'd be able to make it happen, but we did. We brought all the superintendents in. We surveyed our students in Project Lead the Way because what we were finding is students weren't taking our class because they weren't getting the weighted GPA for, for competition to be in the top 10. So bringing all the superintendents in, showing them the feedback from the students, showing them how rigorous the curriculum is. We got all 6 districts to agree to put our programs on the honors AP track. So that just took the program to a whole different level. Students do have the option. They can take a course on the honors track or they can take it as a regular course. Our teachers got together, the biomed and the engineering, and they created honors criteria, which is really self-directed learning and extra projects that they do outside the classroom. So yeah, we've just done, I'm really proud of my teachers because they are the ones that work together. I lead, I support, I give them the tools that they need, but it really starts with our great teachers that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I like, Diane, how you were sharing it. They can opt in for that honors, but also gives them a little extra something on their, I was going to say resumes, but really their high school transcripts. Cliff, you mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned something in your introduction that we had a question in the chat about is, how do you mentioned you just got started with FIRST Robotics this year, got some additional equipment to facilitate that. Can you share a little bit more how that is a part of your Project Lead the Way program?
Yeah, definitely. So we have, in our high school, we have two, we'll call them clean rooms, or Project Lead the Way rooms that are outfitted with the very best computers, Promethean touch boards, brand new lab tables, et cetera, always in that horseshoe instructional environment. So adjacent to that, we had an old wood shop. So we converted that wood shop into some wood working material also, but then more metal working material. So students can actually, when they design something in their Project Lead the Way courses, they can go next door and actually build it. So often what we have what's called a tech club after school. So students then can use, with teachers' guidance, they can go and actually build some of the items that they've designed in Project Lead the Way courses. So in Project Lead the Way, it talks about, buildability. So if you can design something, but can it be built? And so now students really have that firsthand understanding, oh, wait, maybe I need to go back to design and tweak that a little bit to make sure then I can actually build this. In collaboration with that, we like to say STEAM here at Vestal, where we include art. So our art classrooms, and we have a sculpture class, and what they do, the students use clay and ceramic and they make sculptures, and then our engineering students then simulate that in 3D simulation modeling software, and then we 3D print it also, and then they compare how that was developed through the 3D and then the actual hands-on sculpture. So we have that, Jason, also those art classrooms next to our Project Lead the Way classrooms. So that's
great.
how
I
we've
love that.
incorporated
Yeah.
that.
That cross-curricular connection, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing
100%.
that, Cliff.
Yeah.
Diana, I'll toss this question to you. I know you mentioned that Project Lead the Way courses can count for honors kind of along that AP IB track, but can you just share what kind of student is Project Lead the Way for? Is it just for honors, or are there other students that succeed in Project Lead the Way?
Oh no, it serves a wide range, a wide variety of different levels. And students that probably thought they could never be an engineer will walk out of one of our classes thinking, wow, I could be an engineer. So yeah, no, we serve students at all levels, students on IEPs. We have in each 6 of our districts, which I've implemented over the course of 8 years, we have middle school programming. So we're on the wheel in our middle schools. At one middle school, we're serving 860 students. Again, our numbers, we're serving 3,500 students in Project Lead the Way alone. All of those students are having access or are part of a program, either middle school or high school. But no, we provide access for all students, and we encourage all students to come in and take a look and have interest in what we do.
That's great. Thanks, Diane, for sharing that. Cliff, do you have anything to add with what type of student Project Lead the Way is for at your district?
Yeah, same, very, very same as Diane, that we have students, across the board in all of our classes. So what we do, a lot of differentiation in our classes. So if you have a student with an IEP that may need, different modifications, we incorporate that. And we want to challenge students to the best of their ability to succeed as much as possible in our Project Lead the Way classrooms. And that means some students, yes, they get college credit. Other students, maybe they don't, but wow, the type of learning they have from it is really impeccable. But with that, if we have any student that has an 85 average in our course, but doesn't pass the final exam for college credit, we have an articulation agreement with a local community college that offers engineering technology classes, and then they often are able to get college credit through the community college. So we really work hard to make sure the students that are giving their best effort, they have a chance to succeed, and looking for that, getting them involved in some type of beyond high school, whether it's college, career, et cetera, and to make sure that they have all those pathways open to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
One more thing, I just think it's very important. I taught special education for many years. I taught students with severe behavioral and emotional handicaps as well. And a testimony that many of my teachers will say is they can have a student come into their classroom. That student could be failing all other classes, but come into a Project Lead the Way, project-based collaborative environment and do extremely well. So you see kids that really might have some challenges in the traditional classroom flourish in the PLTW classrooms.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Diane, for sharing that. And you both have talked about student success and what that can look like in a variety of different ways that we consider success after high school. But Cliff, I know you have a really good personal story to share about student success after high school related to Project Lead the Way. Would you share a little bit more about that?
I mean, I can talk firsthand. My oldest daughter, so she went to high school here with the high school I was principal at, and she took some Project Lead the Way classes, and then she went on to become a biomedical engineer. And so it's really great. So she definitely has flourished from the Project Lead the Way classes and taking math and science coursework here at Vestal. So it's fantastic. We also have other students. So our robotics course is what's on a course, but our robotics club, you know, for the first robotics, that is led by an engineer from BAE Systems, who was a former student at Vestal, who took all 5 courses through Project Lead the Way, went on to become an engineer, and has come back now and is the lead engineer leading students. And they meet weekly here, gearing up for the competition in the spring. It's just so, you know, heartwarming to know that, you know, we have a great, robust program here, and it's flourishing, where we have all these outside engineering firms that want to help out. And then we have students gone through our program and come back and are involved in helping other students. It's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely full circle. And I appreciate that sharing of your personal story as well, Cliff. Diane, do you have any alumni stories that you want to share about your students, what looked success after high school with you?
Sure. We at Polaris Career Center identified 2 outstanding seniors of the year. And our Ian Taylor, who is just graduated last year from Berea Mid Park High School in our Polaris engineering program. Such an amazing kid. I mean, you look at what he's done through his high school years, the leadership skills that he's portrayed. He just went to Merchant Marine School, and just high success rates of our students overall. I will say that our students are, most of them are college bound. They get scholarships. They're in the upper level of high GPAs with the engineering program, especially. So yeah, we just had some really great stories of students going in, and they leave us and they go on to school to be engineers, or they go into the biomed medical fields. So you can see the impact that it's had just by them pursuing that pathway when they leave us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. We do have one more question, and then we're going to open up our questions that we've received from our question and answer time during our hour together. A lot of times we talk through different funding opportunities or how to fund Project Lead the Way with your different implementations. So Diane, we'll start with you, and then Cliff, I'll jump to you, but can you share what sources, what resources do you utilize to fund your Project Lead the Way programs?
Sure. Well, I've written a couple grants and have received money from Project Lead the Way, a couple smaller grants, I think that 2 of them were, one was $15,000 and one was $10,000. And the grant process is really pretty easy. But, you know, our district, it's kind of our mission and a commitment that we have to Project Lead the Way. We budget every year. It comes out of our general fund, and it's just something that's a part of our programming. And again, we don't look for other resources to sustain it, because we budget and make, you know, a commitment to sustain and maintain our programs financially.
That's great. Thank you, Diane. Cliff?
Yeah, so very similar. Yes, we have a $84 million annual budget here at the district that I am in charge of. And yes, we make sure that all funding is in place for Project Lead the Way. We did use the American Rescue Plan funding. That's where the $400,000 came from, where we outfitted our robotics lab. So we used that funding as a springboard to ensure that we could, it's called Southern Tier Robotics Team, but they had the top-notch equipment in there to make sure our team could be successful, and also then our Project Lead the Way courses could utilize that space. So that's where our funding sources come from. We also have had some local businesses donate some funds periodically from time to time, and our Board of Ed does accept that. So it's been more like a community, and then obviously with our direct funding from our school district.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for both kind of sharing how you got some of that seed funding or implementation funding, and then you utilize it to continue implementations. And I will just share a side note for our attendees on the call today that Project Lead the Way, as Diane mentioned, does have a really strong grant program, and we have a lot of industry partners who are interested in funding Project Lead the Way programs across the country. You can take a look at our website where all of our grant opportunities are listed. So Diane and Cliff, we'll have you stay on just 1 minute, but I want to share with our attendees that we know that you may have other things to do today, so we just want to provide you some next steps, unless you want to stay on and ask some additional questions. But what next steps look like is definitely connect with a Project Lead the Way team member. We're here to support you with your implementation. We do have another PLTW team member who's going to be entering into the chat an email that you can send and connect with us, and we'll get you directed to the right person to connect with. We would also say to go to our website. Like I just mentioned, that pltw.org website is a really strong resource for a lot of things. You can find course outlines, course resumes that provide examples of what students are going to gain in their knowledge and skills when they've completed PLTW coursework. And that's also where you can begin a PLTW grant application. So it's also one last thing I'll share about our PLTW website is we do have a lot of blog stories on there about successful students after they've graduated Project Lead the Way, but also different implementations. So now I'm going to transition, and we're going to have just continue some Q&A. But if you have more specific questions, feel free to throw those into the chat as well. But I'm going to start off with Cliff. You kind of just mentioned this a moment ago, but can you just I'm reading this as I'm trying to say it, Cliff. The question was, what high school engineering course specifically aligns to FIRST Robotics? And I think you touched on this a little bit, but I want to see if you have anything else to add to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because with FIRST Robotics, you want to have drawings of your robot and the components of it. So your IED course is 100% relevant. And then digital electronics, it's a ton of electronics. So you're building those robots. And then also the principles engineering, the structural strength and test of materials, because you want to have a light, fast robot. And so what type of materials can you use to build the robot, and connecting the electrical and mechanical components from digital electronics and the POE. So I would say for us, it's those 3 courses that are instrumental. And then obviously your engineering design development course, where you combine all your knowledge of the 4 engineering courses, and then you build a project, design and build a project. All that is very relevant. And actually, that's where our students, that's an aha moment where they're bringing all the knowledge that they've learned in those courses together, and they're building something they can go and compete with.
That's great. Thank you, Cliff. Another question that was asked a little bit earlier, and I'll have in the chat, and I have the answer for, is the question was, how and when do you implement biomedical science, and what grade is it most appropriate for? So I just want to share out that there are 4 courses within our biomedical science pathway. Some schools offer all 4 of those courses so that students take them in order, if you will. So 1 course for freshman year, 1 for sophomore year, so on and so forth. But there are no requirements to how each school implements. It is school choice, and you know your students best and your student population best in what order to offer that. The second question that was asked in the chat that I want to voice is, can I access everything for the game design and development within the PLTW website? And that answer is the game design and development module, the extra module, teaches game design using Roblox Studio, a development environment used to make Roblox games. Roblox Studio is downloaded onto your computer and cannot be accessed from a browser currently. Then there was one last question we talked about student opportunities a little bit ago, and the question was, where can I find that information on scholarship opportunities for your students? You can find all of our student opportunity, including scholarships and college credit, on our pltw.org website. And then that last question was, can you be trained in more than 1 course at the same time? As in, can I get trained in 3 courses over the spring and summer and want to implement the next year? The question is, yes, you can train in multiple courses during the summer or during that academic year. We do train year round. It would just depend on the scheduling and overlapping. I like to call it calendar Jenga, and that is where a PLTW team member can help you look through that scheduling. So Cliff and Diane, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insight and your expertise with us. That is going to be all that we have today for us. And as a reminder, we will be sending all of this information out to you within a week. And I will just say again, from all of us at Project Lead the Way, thank you to our students and administrators and teachers from our visit to our biomedical science classroom, and to Diane and Cliff. And we want to thank you all. And if you have questions, you can always feel free to email us and we will get your answer. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.